Today we're going to, funnily enough, we're going to work with flying of release. It's an interesting thing to, we've been working with breathing and with air and how air comes into our bodies and how it's all around us. The interesting thing, too, a discovery for me that many of you may already know, but it wasn't clear to me, is that air is a liquid. It's defined. It can fit into an enclosed space, and it adjusts its shape to fit that confined space. And once that confined space is taken away, it changes, unlike a solid. And if you think it has all those molecules, it has all that solid stuff in it, it makes more sense. But of course, it's one of those mysterious things because we don't see it. We don't really feel it unless we, put our hand outside the car window or it's a windy day. We don't sense it as being a force. And it's interesting that uh, GIF that I put in my email of the person flying the wingsuit. He's traveling at about 100 kilometers per hour, and for every meter that you drop, a good wingsuit driver, a pilot, will be able to go 2.5 meters forward. The fastest person they've clocked just in the lower atmosphere has been at 155 miles per hour, and he traveled a distance of 17.5 kilometers. Now it seems pretty fast, doesn't it? 100 miles per hour. But it's really interesting if you consider, Earth itself rotating at 1,600 kilometers an hour around itself as it rotates around the sun, and it's traveling at 107,000 kilometers per hour around the sun. So that's where there's no air. It's just a vacuum in space. So, if we don't have air, we travel 1,000 times faster. So that makes that 100 miles an hour seem pretty slow, really. But we're going to explore that in the same way we explored swimming in water, as a means to get a sense of our torso. Because when we are flying, in fact, I'm going to share my screen now and we'll look at that GIF again. How do you fly one of those things? I shall just mute everyone first. Participants. Yay. How do you control it? I mean, is that insanity or what? Traveling at 100 miles an hour through that little bit of rock there. I mean, look at him going slowly there. It's in a suit, so the suit, goes from the arms to the waist and then between the legs. To go really fast, you pull your chin in towards your chest and round your shoulders. To slow yourself down, you lift your head up, and then you can come straight down. But traveling at that speed, you can't make a sudden movement. Everything has to be gradual. And of course, it's a suit that sits on, and it looks like it's all puffy. But of course, that's just the wind, the lift from the wind pressure. Because when you're a wingsuit pilot, you're essentially turning your body into a wing, a foil that has this lift and drive. Actually, Manju could give us a better description of this afterwards, being a physicist. But how do we control that? And if we look at, cats here falling, the righting reflex, a lot of it has to do with our orientation. So, if we have such fine control of our body, it's coordinated from our head. And that's one of the goals in the well, certainly in the Alexander technique, it's maintaining a freedom of the head on top of your neck no matter what you're doing. Alexander thought it was so important, he called it primary control. Feldenkrais speaks of it in terms of the need to be able to keep or to move your head independently of a movement you're doing, so that whatever you're doing, you can keep your head still, because that's where all the teleceptors are, is where we know where we're going. But you watch this cat here. Look at the cat's gaze, its orientation, where it's actually going. There's that point where it flips over. Let's look at that here. Turns out, looks at the ground first, then looks ahead to where it's going to be, because it realizes it's going to be flipping, and then it turns its head down again. So it has this overview of the whole system. But the other thing that's really interesting here is the way it's using its limbs, including its tail. The sense of length right through the entire body. And if we go down to this one here, I mean, that's interesting, isn't it? Consider the inside and the outside of the paw, and how that you can follow that line, from the inside up right through into the torso, and from the outside right through into the torso, and how that relates to the movement of the spine and the head, and the other two. How both, everything moves together. And this one here, how lengthening the leg, and the head, this line down here, and then the counterbalancing with the tail in this direction. But once again, everything organized around the gaze, where it's actually looking. And you can see it in this. It's really sad, isn't it? We've been reduced to cat videos. But this one is interesting in that, when many humans land, when they jump somewhere and land, they look to where they're landing. Looking at where their feet are going to land. It's obvious. It's often, or people who don't know how to jump. And, then it looks quite ungainly. Whereas you look at this cat, it's looking forward, it's looking above and ahead of where it's landing. So it has the forward motion factored into it. In the same way that somebody knows how to fall, they don't just hit the ground. Well, you can do it in some ways and spread the weight, but mostly they roll. It's some sort of where the movement is continuous. Particularly you see all those parkour people, jumping from one rooftop across a gap onto another, and they land on their feet and go into a squat and then into a roll. So, but that's the other thing, is that we're in this air. This is a barn owl. Flies very efficiently. There's another video in this sequence where it flaps its wings a bit, and they're feathers or something. It's some sort of fluff under there, and that'll get stirred up. But it's able to just ride on the pressure of the wings. Its wings are on pressure of the air, and maintain its height and its stillness. But notice it still has the orientation of its head as it's moving its wings there at the end. It's still absolutely stillness in its head, and stillness not so much in the head but in its focus, and that the rest of the body can follow. And these are the sort of things, when you're in a wingsuit, and if you make a too sudden movement, you can go into a spin. And there's actually a guy, Felix Baumgartner from Austria, who went up in a helium-filled balloon up to 39 kilometers, right up into the stratosphere, and then jumped out. And if he'd gone into just this uncontrollable spin, it would have been really difficult to pull out of it, and lots of bad things could have happened. But he managed to stabilize himself And so he'd fall in this long free fall, then pulled his parachute, and then he survived. And then he landed, and he landed standing up, because he knows how to just make that small adjustment at the end, like this owl. Now, consider this owl has probably been flying from over in this direction. It has this wing up, which is stopping it, and it's using this wing and its tail to press against the air, to slow the way it comes down. And once again, notice even with this quite extreme position of the wings and the tail, the gaze is still absolutely focused on the center. And of course, birds have a much smaller body than we do, but they don't have the the rotation, the ability to rotate that we do, because we're organized to move upright on land rather than to move through the air, but we can do it. And I thought we should explore it today. Means we need to get more control of our of our torso, so that we can have this sense of the aerodynamic. So we can be aerodynamic. Think of the way, if that was, the air would pass across the whole of that body. Same with us if we fall. So let's explore this. Let's explore. Now, falling might be something that you find a bit freaky, so I'm going to be urging you to sort of create a safe world, a safe way that you can fall. And I'll maybe give you an option early on where you could do it without any sense of instability. So could you find a place on the floor? On your back. So as you lie here on the floor, consider your body as a 3D round structure that's moving as you're breathing. Take your time to just spread your attention around your torso, so you can feel the way the front of your body rises and falls. And maybe the sides. Maybe the back of your body. Do you feel it pressing into the floor as you breathe in? And you can notice what your eyes or your tongue are doing. Are they moving about with your thoughts or feelings. And we've spoken about, how long it takes to breathe out and to breathe in. Just notice that. How many seconds you're taking to breathe out, how many seconds you're taking to breathe in. And we spoke of resonant breathing, which was about 5.5 seconds in each direction, around that sort of time, 5 or 6 seconds. Now, you may not be breathing like that. That's absolutely fine. But just sense, soon you probably will be having longer inhalations and exhalations as you relax. So, what's going on within you that would prevent that? Or is there anywhere where you're trying to force your breath to be a particular way? Well, as you breathe out, could you draw one leg out to the side? And then as you breathe in, let it come back down to be long. And then the next time you breathe out, draw the other knee out to the side. The foot will move toward your pelvis. And then as you breathe in, let it come back. And keep doing that, just following the natural rhythm of your breath with this movement of your leg. So you're trying to mimic the rhythm of your breath with this movement of your leg. Which is maybe a bit of a challenge, because when you're just lying there doing nothing, you don't need much breath. To draw your leg out to the side, maybe that takes a bit more energy, and maybe you notice more of your body is involved in that action. You draw your leg out to the side, what happens to the opposite arm? The opposite shoulder. What happens to the opposite leg when you move one leg out to the side? And you could maybe move it right out to the side. And then when you breathe in, you could just lift your knee up so you stand that foot on the floor. And then you move the other knee out to the side. And then you move that knee back up toward the ceiling. And then you let that knee back out to the side as you breathe out. And as you breathe in, you let your leg be long. So you're moving your leg away from the center when you breathe out. And you move toward the center when you breathe in. Going side to side. and feeling the way your body rolls as you do this, moving with your breath. Maybe you could imagine that you're absolutely flying through the air like a jet, and that this is some sort of maneuver changing your wings so that you could fly more efficiently. So could you keep your eyes focused directly above you toward the ceiling? Allow the rest of your body to move. And it's the breath, the rhythm of your breath, that's driving the movement. And then leave that. Just rest there. With your legs long. And could you imagine that now you're lying on a cloud? You've learnt something fundamental about the Earth's magnetic field, that you can feel it and you can move yourself to different points within the circulation of that magnetic field. And you can float there in the air on a cloud. Or you could allow yourself to drop suddenly and to just feel yourself falling through the air and then stop yourself at any time. Try that now. Just imagine that you could, lying in this cloud, just begin to fall. And you remember what it's like when you place your hand outside the window of a car that's moving quickly? The pressure you feel on your hand. Imagine the pressure that you feel on your legs and your back. And then pull yourself up, slow yourself down and float there, resting at some point in the Earth's magnetic field. You could imagine yourself lifting up at 100 miles an hour. Still, you can breathe freely, feeling the pressure of the air buffeting against your body, of your chest and arms and hands and feet. And then leave that, come to stillness, perhaps back in that cloud. And now, as you breathe out, could you lift your left arm and leg? And as you breathe in, let it come back down. Lift them into the air. That's an interesting thing because it takes a bit more effort to lift the left arm and leg and to time that with your breath. So that you take the full length of the breath in order to lift and the full length of the breath in order to come down. And keep your gaze toward the ceiling up as you do that, even though you may feel your pelvis and your rib cage on that side begin to roll over to the left. Keep your gaze softly toward the ceiling. So you can allow your neck to be soft. And then leave that, rest there. So you sense how you feel on each side. Now do the same thing with the right leg and the right arm. So you lift the arm and leg up as you breathe out, and you let it come back down as you breathe in. And even though your torso rolls over to the right as you lift the arm and leg, let your head be soft and your gaze calmly focused above you on the ceiling. Now, if we were, or you were in a wingsuit now, and you're floating in this cloud, you could be doing this same thing. In fact, you could raise the right leg and the right arm and let it come back down, but you could do it while you're falling. Can you imagine that you're falling again through the sky and that you have the pressure of the wind buffeting against you? And when you lift this side, when you lift this arm and leg, how does that move you? How does that influence the way you fall? You could alternate now. Lift first of all the right leg and arm and let it come down completely, and then as you breathe out, you lift the left leg and left arm, sensing how it influences the way you fly through the air. Keeping your gaze in the sky above you so you can see the cloud that you've fallen out of getting smaller. And you can slow yourself down. And do that now. Slow yourself down. Just rest there. Maybe sense yourself flying through the air head first, up, back up to your cloud. And then resting there again on your cloud, we're going to fall again. And now you see skydivers who are really experienced, and certainly anyone wearing a wingsuit, they have to have done 500 hours of jumping before you can do a course. But they can turn over. They can slowly turn themselves over and control it so they don't go into a spin. So now let yourself fall from the cloud through the air. Feel that wind buffeting on you all over your body. And then raise your right arm and leg and move it over to the left. And roll yourself over onto the left side and onto your stomach. And continue falling here. Feel the pressure of air against your belly and face and your hands and feet. And then lift your right arm and leg and come back to roll onto your back. In one movement, still falling. And then you could roll over using the left arm and leg. Reach over, and as you do it, feel the pressure on the ground as air pressing down on your body. We're pressing into the air, falling through there. How it slows our momentum and how we can carve ourselves through the air by adjusting our head and our arms and our legs. And this time, stay on your stomach. Stay on your stomach. Pause there for a moment in midair. And rest. Looking at the ground below you. You could maybe raise your head, lift your feet a little bit, and your hands extended in front of you, and move your hands at the wrists and your legs at the knees. Move your feet and your feet and your lower legs side to side, along with your hands, as if you're steering. And imagine yourself falling now and then going forward, flying through the air and using your hands and your legs as aerofoils. And you may have felt it if you've caught a wave, that in water, when you're flying through the water, you feel your belly pressing against the water, and maybe it's the same now. As you do a turn, you turn your legs and your hands, and you feel yourself banking into a curve. Which is what people with wingsuits do. Come down flow, they fly close to the terrain and they can carve over these large grassy meadows. Feel yourself carving through the air, this delicate turning of your arms and legs in time with your breath makes it so much easier. And all the time, maintaining focus. Rest there. And once again, extend your arms and legs and continue that movement. But this time, when you move in one direction, could you breathe out? When you come back to the middle, could you breathe in? And consider the length of your limbs. You know, the way cats stretch themselves, stretch their limbs, their legs and their tail in order to counterbalance themselves, and how when they're falling, they always are oriented to where they're going. Think of that now as you're flying around in these clouds. Breathing out as you move to the side and in as you come back to the center and lengthening. And you could fly right onto your back. You could roll right over onto your back. And then back again. When you're going away from the middle, you breathe out. When you're coming back to the middle, you breathe in. But to roll right over onto the back, you extend the arm and the leg. Extend the head and the spine, or so the head and the pelvis move away from each other. Everything lengthens as you breathe out to roll over or come back to the middle, breathing in. And then roll onto your back and rest. As you breathe out, roll your head to one side. As you breathe in, come back to the middle. And now, sense as you're doing that, the rest of your body is passive. Your head rolls, but feel the point where the skull joins onto your spine. Just below the ears, between the ears. The breath that comes in through the nose heads directly to that point. Goes over the top of the point where the skull sits on top of the spine. And now keeping sense of that freedom in your neck and the effortless movement of your breath, could you come up onto your hands and knees? Slowly. And look down at the ground as if you're kneeling in a cloud. And could you move your pelvis side to side? in a way that enables you to keep your gaze focused on this one spot. So your head will be still, but the rest of your body will move. All the joints in your neck can be soft. Come back to the middle with your pelvis, and could you lift your right arm up toward the ceiling whilst you're looking at the floor and back down again. So you're looking down toward the ground and you're raising your right arm up toward the ceiling, and the rib cage is turning, the spine is turning, but your head is still focused on the ground. And you could move your right hand underneath the left. So you reach the right hand across to the left side. So your right shoulder drops down to the floor. And then when you reach the arm up above your head, the right shoulder lifts. And all the while, your head and your gaze is focused on this one spot. So feel the way all of your body can soften, where you can soften to allow this stillness. And then leave that, come back to sit in some way that's comfortable. And come onto your hands and knees again. And do the same thing with the left arm. Reaching the left arm up toward the ceiling, so your left shoulder and rib cage lift, whilst you're looking down at the ground. So you're allowing everything in your body to be soft, so that you could maintain this effortless focus. And of course you could feel as you're raising the arm how the pressure increases on the two knees in the other hand. And as you place your left hand back down on the floor, how that pressure equalizes. And you raise your hand as you breathe out, and bring your hand down as you breathe in. And the next time you do it, you could actually let your hand go underneath the right arm and across to the right side. As you're breathing out, as you breathe in, you come back to the middle and breathe out, lift up, still looking at the ground. Or you could breathing out as you reach up, breathing in as you come down and reach over to the right. Now leave that. Come back to sit, to rest for a moment. There's an interesting opportunity here, because the movement is slightly bigger, requires more effort. How do you make it light? How can you use your breath to make this movement light? We'll come back to the hands and knees. And as you breathe out, raise your right hand up toward the ceiling. And as you breathe in, come back down and reach across to the left. But could you consider, as you're doing this, the breath coming into your body and the breath around you? You know, as if when you're breathing out or breathing in this slowly, it's like you become part of the air. And then leave that. Lie down on your back and rest. So, go ahead and do it, Mum. It's fine. Yeah. Sorry, everyone. There's some people have come to remove a hospital bed, so there'll be a bit of background noise. Now, come back up onto your hands and knees. And could you, as you breathe out, raise your left knee? Tuck your toes under and raise your left knee. And as you breathe in, you come back down. And of course, you can make that really effortless by transferring your weight across to the right knee. Breathing out as you raise the knee. Breathing in as you come back down. And feel that right through the torso. You know, right through the whole head, neck and torso. Right down over the belly, into the hip, over your thigh. Movement of breath in and out of your body. And then come back to sit, to rest. What's the feeling through your body now? That sense of the whole head, neck, and torso. The sense of the breath into the limbs. Can we identify with the forces around us, the breath and the air, and the magnetic field of the earth? Come forward again onto your hands and knees and do the same thing with the right knee. Tuck your toes under, lift the right knee as you breathe out, come back to the middle as you breathe in. And you're looking down, keeping your head and your gaze still, and moving slowly and smoothly. So you're moving with the natural breath. Feeling everything soften and maintaining the length of all the segments of your body. And then go from lifting the right knee, keep the right knee up, and then tuck the toes of the left and lift the left knee. And then come back down with the right, and then the left. So you raise your hip as you breathe out. As you breathe in, you move the pelvis over that hip, you lift the other knee. Then as you breathe out, you come down on one side, you breathe in, you come on the other. So move in harmony with your breath. It's as if you have jets of air coming out of your hands and your feet when you lift yourself up and come down. And it's your breath, it's breathing in and breathing out slowly that generates that breath, or uses the energy from the air around you to power this burst of either air, or it could be magnetism, or something that gives you a bit of lift, but you feel it spread right through from your hands to your feet. Lovely. Leave that, come back to sit. In fact, lie down on your back to rest. So imagine yourself suddenly falling, release the control of from your altitude and just let yourself plummet through the air, feeling it against the back of your body, but right out to your hands and feet, through your legs. Still breathing softly. And now slow yourself down and use the breath to power yourself back up into the cloud. Through the hands and feet, through your body, feel yourself lifting against the air, pushing through the air. Till you rest once again in the cloud. So roll over onto your side and come onto your hands and knees again. And this time, could you place your forehead on the ground? Place your forehead on the ground and have your elbows next to your head. So your hands are on the floor in front of you, like we're in a Islamic prayer position. And just feel the floor with your hands. You're probably looking down at your feet. And it gives you a different sense of the way your head, neck and torso move as you breathe. Maybe even of the organization of your neck. Well, could you take your right hand and slide it underneath your body over to the left? Feel the way your right shoulder comes down onto the ground. And then take it back out and put it back in that same position. And then do the same thing with the left. And, the left arm slides under your body over toward the right, and you feel the left shoulder drop down toward the floor. And it comes back up. And as you're doing this, maintain the focus. As if this is some sort of aerobatic maneuver you're doing and we're flying through space. And you needed to keep your control there. And of course you can play with how your weight is positioned. So you can minimize the amount of strain that you're experiencing, so that your breathing can be free. It's just your torso that's moving. You're rotating in the rib cage. Maybe your pelvis is moving a little bit to the side, but you can still look softly. Lovely. Now come up to sit for a moment just to rest. So, it's useful if we can get that sense of the whole head, neck and torso moving slowly with your breath. So let's try that again. That same movement of reaching one arm under and then the other arm, counting to 10 out loud continuously. That same process we've been doing. Where you reach under your body, counting to 10, and you keep going, and as you're doing it on one exhalation. As you're getting toward the end, you're feeling how your diaphragm and pelvic floor and soft palate are lifting toward in the head. And then when you need to breathe, you can't do it anymore. You just let the breath go and feel the sense it gives you of your torso. So you're in that position with your forehead on the floor or your head on the floor, sliding one arm under and rotating the rib cage, but counting to 10 out aloud, slowly, and stopping whilst still holding your breath whenever you need to. So you can just drop everything. And then, feel, probably when you've got your arm under, one side when you let the breath come back in, and just notice what parts move that don't normally move. And when you come back to normal breathing, go back and start again. And maybe the next time you do it, you have your other arm under the body when you choose that moment to breathe in. And you do it at your own time, and you can try it with the arms above the head too, just on the floor as well, to pause at that point to breathe. And notice what it enables you to feel. In that point when you come to, when you feel you can't go anymore, but you stop and you drop everything, and then you count a little bit more, so you squeeze as much air as you can out of your body. And then feel how the whole head, neck and torso moves as you breathe in. And then finish the one you're on, and then come back up to sit and rest. Notice how you feel now, the sense of the head, neck and torso, and the way air flows in and flows out of your body. And think of that gaseous exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. As you breathe, it goes through to every cell in your body. So once again, come onto your hands and knees. And as you breathe out, lift up one knee. As you breathe in, move your weight over onto that other foot, and then lift the other knee. And then come back down with both knees. Go up and down like this. Feeling your breath move through the whole body, right through to your hands and your feet. And then next time you, in fact, come back to sit and rest again. Was that easier? So try that again. Come onto your hands and knees, or your fists and knees, or your elbows, or whatever is it that is comfortable for you. Lift yourself up in the same way and stay up there this time, but do it whilst you're counting to 10. Out aloud. 1, 2, 3. Feeling the whole head, neck and torso moving as you exhale, and feeling the breath right through to your feet and your hands. And when you get to that point where you can't do it anymore, you can't hold your breath anymore, then just let the breath rush in And notice the sense it gives you of the limbs and the way they're connected to your body. And rest whenever you need to. And play with this idea of lifting yourself up onto your hands as you count out loud to 10. Keeping your neck free. You could lift one arm toward the ceiling. And then the other one. Or you could even start to walk on your hands. Whatever is easy for you as you count and you feel this right through the whole head, neck and torso and right down to your hands and your feet. Rest whenever you need to. And think of the air flowing into your body, right through to your hands and feet. And then finish the one that you're on. And lie down on your back and rest. You could imagine that you're floating in the sky. That you could fly anywhere you want. Maybe you're on a long trip, going somewhere beautiful. And you can just lie here on your back and just be aware of everything that's around you. Powered by your breath, powered by the air. And notice how long it takes to breathe out, how long it takes to breathe in now. Sense of how it feels when your breath is soft and easy through the rest of your body. And once again, just open your eyes. Look at the atmosphere around you, the liquid air. Imagine yourself coming up to stand. Where will you be looking when you're standing? And roll over onto your side now and come up to stand. Notice how it feels. Your body filled with air, and itself an aerofoil. Your gaze toward the horizon. And when you're ready, walk. In a way that allows you to feel the air around you and the breath within. As if you're walking on a cloud. As if you could walk in the air.